Hello and welcome to our first video demo for Food 3230. Today we'll be covering the basics of aseptic technique. Aseptic technique is important as it keeps your samples and sterile materials free from contamination. Now, since this is the first video, before we begin the lab demo, we'll remind you to always come to the lab in appropriate attire. You should have long pants that cover your ankles and closed-toed shoes. Long hair should be tied back. This is especially important as you'll be working with burners quite often. In the lab, you should always wear proper PPE, and for the most part that will be your lab coats, gloves, and goggles. Since this is a micro lab, always remember to wash your hands upon leaving. With that out of the way, let's look at how to set up the benchtop to work aseptically. First, you should disinfect your benchtop with 70% ethanol or another appropriate disinfectant. Next, light your burner. This will create an updraft that prevents airborne microbes from landing in your workspace. Always work within a 6-inch radius of this flame, and always work slowly as to not disturb the updraft. Some other things to keep in mind moving forward, which apply almost always when you're using aseptic technique. When you open sterile containers, try to avoid placing the lid on the benchtop and always hold the lid facing down. This keeps airborne microbes from settling in the lid. Also, keep containers open for the least amount of time possible to minimize contamination. Oftentimes, you'll need to transfer bacteria to or from liquid or solid media. For demonstration purposes, we'll show you how to go both ways, starting with transferring from plate to broth. For this demo, we'll be using a sterile disposable loop. When removing your loop or other sterile instruments from the package, always bend the part of the package that you touched back to avoid contaminating the loop. Now, open the plate, keeping the lid over the plate as a shield, then touch a colony on the plate with the loop. Now, close the plate and transfer the bacteria to the liquid culture with light swirling. Finally, close your container and put the loop into the bioweight. You'll also need to know how to transfer from broth to plate. Here, you'll take your loop and dip it into the culture, and then streak it onto the plate. Notice that the same opening and closing techniques are used as before. Finally, we'll take a look at how to pipette to or from a sterile container. Notice how the pipette doesn't touch the edges of the container. The thing to remember here is that only the tip of the pipette is sterile, and so the tip is the only thing that should touch the inside of your container. And finally, we'll show you how to clean up after you've done your work. First, empty any liquid biowaste into a container. And then dispose of all contaminated solids in a biowaste bag. Next, extinguish your flame and put away all of your materials. Finish by disinfecting the benchtop once more with ethanol or another appropriate disinfectant. And that concludes our aseptic technique demo. Next week, we'll demonstrate how to prepare samples for microbial analysis and enumeration.